Brendan has created some scripts that's going to take the data that's in a project or anything within RiskIQ's API and bring it back into CrowdStrike. So now that I created this project, if we go back and we look at the project, okay, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go into the project. There's this little ID that's up here, okay, and that identifies the project. That's the unique identifier for the project. The API, he's going to use that to pull in all this information back into CrowdStrike. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it back over to Brendan so he can use this rich data that CrowdStrike had some intel on and other ones they didn't to go back into the organization and see how it affects you. Okay, so I'm going to stop my screen and make Brendan presenter.
Okay. So looking at the project that Benjamin just created, and I've got, you know, that same view that we were just on, right? The domains that he was just adding in. I've got this project ID up here at the top, and I'm going to copy this ID so that I can use it in my script. So again, the PowerShell modules that I created actually do a few different things. So I just wanted to call that out real quick. I posted those GitHub links earlier in the chat, but again, they're in the slides as well, which will be shared. So if you don't have them, either scroll up in the chat or you can check those slides later. But showing them just really quickly on GitHub to give you an idea of what these things will do for you. PS Falcon maps to all the APIs that the CrowdStrike Falcon platform has available. So that can be anything from you know, modifying detections, incidents, searching for things, you know, configuring your account, working with real-time response. You know, the list is pretty long and there's a lot of commands that are included with it. Again, you can install it in PowerShell 5.1 or greater, which is this install module named PS Falcon. The PS RiskIQ module is very similar. It's got the same command to install it. So you've got that install module named PS RiskIQ from the PowerShell gallery. And it's also got a whole set of commands to work with the different APIs. So there's a little bit of a breakdown that really roughly maps to the PassiveTotal API documentation. So if you go here to the community API, you can see it broken out into different categories. And I did the same thing for the commands that are included in the PS RiskIQ module. You can see some examples of, you know, the commands themselves and then parameters that are included with those commands. So to kind of, yeah.
Do you mind a little short disclaimer, safety disclaimer for PS Falcon?
Yeah, good call, Jason. So PS Falcon is not something that's officially supported by CrowdStrike. You can really say the same for PS RiskIQ. These were things that I created just separately because I wanted to put a toolkit out there for people that wanted to use APIs that maybe didn't understand, you know, how to interact with them, but knew enough PowerShell that they could write a script that would use the APIs if they had the tools. So these are, you know, kind of at your own risk, provided as is. If you do have a support issue or run into a bug or something, please feel free to, you know, post something on the GitHub and I'll take a look. But they are, you know, at their heart, relatively simple. It's a lot of formatting to make certain API requests, and then what you do with the data that comes back is up to you. But please don't expect that either RiskIQ or CrowdStrike is going to support any scripts that were created that use these modules. These are really just there to ensure that if you want to interact with them, you have the tools that you need. But you know, you're mostly going to be on your own as far as authoring those scripts.
And one thing I wanted to mention is RiskIQ is looking at, you know, if people like these scripts, putting this functionality into PassiveTotal natively. So, you know, if we get feedback and people go, this is really cool, I love this, we're looking at potentially putting this into the product just to make it so it just does it automatically for you.
Awesome. Yeah. So it really kind of shows you the capabilities of APIs for stuff, you know, that those integrations might be there, like the passing back and forth of those domains, like you saw when we click those links. And then there's other things that aren't, that like Benjamin just said, you know, we could open up some additional integrations, and in between now and that time when those things are there, this is a quick way to share data back and forth. And to illustrate that, I made the get artifacts script. So this is a separate piece that uses those two modules, PS Falcon and PS RiskIQ, and calls the appropriate commands to either grab the data from a project and look for the indicators that are compatible with CrowdStrike and import them as custom IOCs in CrowdStrike Falcon, or grab data from a CSV export. So in this case, I've got this little animated GIF showing you what it looks like on the project level and how it imports those indicators. And I'm going to do the same thing where I've got my PowerShell prompt running here on my Mac. I've got both of those modules installed on my computer, and I've got the get artifact script just sitting here in my home directory. So there's two parts to it, right? I've got to obviously have the script, but then I've got to have either the project ID or that CSV export, which we'll talk about later. So now that I've got it, I can come into my PowerShell prompt and run that get artifacts script, and then point to the project ID. So I just go like this and I hit enter, and it sees in this case that there were 57 domains, which matches up to the 57 domains that were here added to this project on the fly. And it imported those into Falcon, and it also made a CSV letting me know what those IOCs were. So I can look at that CSV. I can see each one of those domains that were added and some of the basic information that was included with it. So in this case, I added each one of those domains with a detect policy. So what that means is that once it's imported, the system's going to run through the raw activity that I have for my devices in my account and see if any of my devices contacted those domains. So again, like Ben pointed out, we started out with the download-dropbox-edu, and we knew that was bad. But we found in RiskIQ that there were a bunch of other domains that were relevant to that one that weren't showing up on CrowdStrike. So doing this and grabbing these 57 other relatively high fidelity domains based off that telephone number enables me to check the rest of my account to see if any of my other devices have contacted those domains, and it'll go through and it'll generate detections based off that history that I have, and those will pop up in my account if any of those have been contacted. But I can also obviously search for those individually or do different things. And you'll notice too that I put a comment in for each one pointing back to that project. So when I look at those IOCs through the IOC API on Falcon, I can see the reason that those were added in if I want to go back and delete them later. But for now, they're added in for 7 days. So they will alert for the next 7 days, and then they'll expire and rotate out of the account. Okay, so I'm going to hit refresh, and looks like we probably got more. Let's go back here. Yep, so you can see here in this case, right, the Dropbox-download-eu.com was part of that import that we just made, was tied to that telephone number. So before, when I opened up this detection, all I had was these two at the top, right? I had the known bad indicator, then I had the process injection, but now because I added that IOC, it went back, saw that domain in this communication and generated a detection based on that IOC that we imported. So it'll continue to do that for other systems as well. If I have any activity, which I should, but if I don't, then I can go through and reach out to one of those and ping it real quick and get one of those detections to generate. I went and repinged some of those domains. I did get some of those detections coming in. First here I have the one of the domains from that project that we brought in, which was actually one that our Intel knew about as well. So I just randomly picked one of those, and it shows that it triggered on that custom IOC, but it also triggered on the Intel indicator.
For more information about RiskIQ products and services, email success@riskiq.net or consider joining our community at community.riskiq.com. Thank you.